Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and I'm here for another this and that video. And if you're new, what these kind of videos are is they're basically a potpourri covering a whole bunch of different things, directing you back to some old videos I may have, letting you know what's coming, plus some updates on projects I've started or even videos I've already shot, and I just wanted to update you on some more information. So let's start off by talking about the socks. So when you're seeing this video, here's something else I gotta explain, so just bear with me, is that the two videos I usually put out within a few days of shooting are my this and that videos and my garden related videos. All my other videos can be a week to at least a month old by the time they publish. So if you saw my video on the Darn Tough socks that I did, well, I'm already doing an update because that video was actually made about a month or so ago, and it ended up getting pushed out a little farther than I had planned. And so I've been wearing these socks for even longer now. Now these are the first two I bought. These are actually still damp because I just pulled them out of the washing machine and I got to hang them up. But so far, still at this time, wearing these for 2 months straight, because I try to wear these two the most, even though I have several pairs, because I want to really track how well they're doing. And so far, no more signs of wear. Now in that video, now I'll link down below to the video review I did on the Darn Tough socks, so you can check that out. But I just wanted to update you that as far as the pilling, I was kind of complaining. I wasn't really complaining, but one of the drawbacks was some of the pilling and the fact that things like lint and threads are things that are always around here. Thread and little wood chips from carrying the wood in and then walking around on the carpet in sock feet. And a lot of times those things get stuck in the socks, and that was my only real issue. But since I did throw all of our different socks, here's a pair of Patrick's, in the dryer at least once, I noticed that did help quite a bit, even just doing it once. Even though since doing that, I've been hanging them on the, taking them straight from the washing machine and hanging them up, I've noticed I've had far less problems with that. So something about putting them in the dryer at least one time seemed to really help prevent so much stuff sticking to them. And I know a lot of people recommended turning them inside out when you wash them. Well, I just don't like to do that. I think the dirtiest part of the sock is on the outside, and so I prefer to have that on the outside when I'm washing them. But anyway, it's all a matter of choice. Some people prefer to turn their socks inside out to wash anyway, because sometimes the sock lint will ball up in there. And that has happened with my cheap socks, and I just reach in there and pull that little ball out. But I have yet to have that happen with my Darn Tough socks. Now right here, this is my newest pair right here. I did wear them once only because I am mostly trying to wear these same two over and over, but I don't do the laundry every single day either. So every now and then I have to fall back on one of my other pairs. But for now, most of the wear is happening on this, and so I'll continue to keep you updated on that as time goes on. However, if you check out that video and read some of the comments down below from people who've been wearing this brand for years, I've seen one lady in particular said she's been wearing the same ones for 10 years and still has not had any holes in hers. So I think that's a pretty good review right there, just reading those comments, let alone what I said, because I'm still new to this particular brand, and so far very pleased. All right, the next update I needed to cover is on the black seed. So I just had a video published. The day that I'm shooting this was the day the video published on black seed. Now when I shot that video, I had been doing my research. One thing I didn't look into until after I shot the video was, what do the flowers even look like? So after I shot the video, I decided to search for what the flowers of the black seed or the Nigella sativa plant look like, and I was really shocked because that looks just like Lovin' and Mist, and I did grow those one year simply because they were a free packet of seeds I got from Baker Creek, and I thought they were beautiful. Now at the time I had looked it up because I'm always trying to, whenever I got a flower or anything growing in my garden or discover something new, I always look it up to find out if it's edible. Now what I looked up then said they were toxic, the flowers. So I did a little more research and found that they are two different plants. So the Love of the Mist is the Nigella damascena, where the one that we're using for the black seed is the Nigella sativa. So two different plants. Now here's what I've learned. I haven't done any really deep research since then, just some real basic stuff. Is I did find out that they were related. Now what I found out today is that the Nigella sativa was the original plant that the Love in a Mist came from in the first place. Me and one of my followers were kind of going back and forth and talking about this and looking into it, and we were finding conflicting information about the Love in a Mist. Is it edible? Now, like I said, years ago when I looked it up, I found that the flowers were toxic, so I just didn't look any further than that and didn't bother with it. But then today, I found something that said the flowers are edible. So things are getting a little confusing here. One place will say that the compound in the Love in a Mist seeds is toxic, yet may be safe for humans. And then another place doesn't talk about that at all. So I wanted to bring this up because, first of all, if you're going to grow, and after, by the way, after I saw that it was Love in a Mist, that they're related, I'm like, I know I can grow the Nigella sativa here because I grew the Love in a Mist before without any problem. So anyone who's already growing that, or they know it grows well for them, then you know this one's going to grow well. Now here's the thing, even if the Love in a Mist, the Nigella damascena, or damascena, there's like 4 different ways to pronounce it. If it is truly safe and non-toxic and does have health benefits, my guess is since the Nigella sativa or the black seed or the black cumin or kalanji, whatever you want to call it, was the original plant, my assumption, this is just hypothesis, this one's going to be higher in medicinal properties and nutrition. So I would still recommend either way going with this one. And also, if you're already growing the other one, the Love in a Mist, and you're wanting to just know, is it possible I can use this in place of it? Just do some deep research. Again, we're finding all this conflicting information, and it could be one of the things that's just like comfrey. Oh, it's toxic, don't eat comfrey, blah, blah, blah. Yes, it's totally safe. Eat comfrey, make tea out of it. Which is it? I mean, so much conflicting information, it can get frustrating. So it's really looking into people who've used it, how many years have they used it, and just cross-comparing all your information. Don't stick to just one place like I've done in the past with the Love in a Mist when I looked it up. So that's why I never grew it again, because it's like, well, it's toxic, even though it's beautiful. I don't want it taking up space in my garden. I want to save my garden space for things that I know are medicinal and non-toxic. So anyway, but I was excited at least to learn that those plants are definitely related, and so I feel pretty certain I can grow the black seed on my own. So again, don't forget to check that video out. And by the way, with that in mind, I mentioned in that video, and I did show a picture about starting the honey infused black seed and garlic, and I've actually been, this almost half gone. I've actually been eating it, and I'm really, really liking it. I'm surprised at how much better it tastes like this rather than just eating it alone. And several people under that video also shared the way they use the black seed for seasoning or even adding it to different things, and find that they can make the flavor taste a lot better depending on how they're using it, such as grinding it and using it as a powder in foods to get those medicinal benefits. So that's something to look into. And anyway, and I was excited to read some different people's ideas on how they use it, because it's like, oh, cool, I like that idea. So I might be trying some of those. And then the other thing I did with the black seed is this jar right here. I've got my little bottle of hair oil right here. It's actually more for the scalp, but I did add some to my infusion that I've got going on. It's actually almost done, but I'm probably going to let it sit longer. I'm going to wait till this is empty anyway. So this is it's supposed to be a hair growth stimulating oil. It's a recipe I came up with on my own. And I do have a video recipe on this that I'll share down below. But anyway, I did go ahead and add some of the black seed into this. And then for the honey infused garlic and black seed, I've got an empty jar here. I've got some fermented garlic. I have a whole bunch of fermented garlic, and I ferment it myself. And so I'm going to start another jar like this, but on this one I'm going to put my little Chinese 5-color peppers that I grew in my garden. I had that in my previous batch and loved it. These things are spicy and I love these things, and I don't know why I didn't get them in this batch. So I'm going to make sure I do that. So I'm going to be doing the black seed, the garlic, And my peppers here, I think it's because in this one I use the red pepper flakes instead. But I like these better. They're even hotter. So I'll be doing that and getting that started today. And if you're curious about my honey infused garlic recipe that involves using some other spices, I'll go ahead and link to that video down below so you can check that out. And then just think about possibly adding some black seed in there like I did. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about is the homemade wine. So back here are my 2 jugs of the grape wine made from my own homegrown grapes. And yes, I have a whole winemaking video series that includes also a video on how to make your own homemade mead, fruit flavored mead in particular. But this is all made from only my homemade grapes and then some sugar and some rainwater. And I'm going to rack it today. It's all done. Actually, I could let it ferment longer and get stronger, but right now, with it being still kind of bubbly and the flavor is still a little bit sweet and yet a little bit tart because those grapes are really tart, the flavor is really wonderful. So I went ahead and stopped the fermentation process where it was. I strained it out and then I'm getting ready, and it's been sitting for a few days, letting the sediments fall. I've got my tester out because out of curiosity, I do still want to test and see what the alcohol level is. And you can learn about that in that video, particularly in the part 1 in the winemaking series. But one of the things I specifically wanted to talk about today was the airlock and the drilled rubber stopper, because there was somebody that's been having some issues making mead, and the first time she contacted me, she had started some raspberry mead and noticed that, you know, she put the airlock on there and everything, but for some reason had mold growing on top of her fruit, the raspberries that were sitting on top, even though she had the airlock on there and she had water in the airlock, and she didn't have any bubbles coming through, and it had been sitting, I can't remember if she said it had been sitting for 2 weeks, but it had been sitting for quite a while, and it should start bubbling within 3 to 5 days tops. You should be seeing air bubbles come through there. Sometimes within the first day or 2 it can start bubbling. It just depends on how warm the area you have it in is, and how active your fermentation starter is, things like that. She threw that one out because of the mold, and she decided to start another batch. Well, 9 days later, she didn't have any mold growing on it this time, but she still didn't have any bubbles, not even any pressure going on in her airlock. So if there's at least some pressure, all the water should be to this side of the airlock right here. But her water level was staying right here at the line. It wasn't moving to one side, and certainly no bubbles were moving through there. But when I got to looking closely at her photo that she sent me, I actually blew the photo up and was looking closer and closer at what she had there. On top of her jug, it looks like she had a plastic cap that had a hole drilled in it and then had her airlock stuck down inside. Well, if there's no rubber gasket of any kind around there, that would explain what the problem is. So let's say you're using a jug like this with the cap, and you decided to take the cap and just drill a hole in the cap and stick the airlock down inside. That's not good enough. If it's plastic or metal, you still need some kind of rubber in there that's going to make a good seal. Otherwise, what's happening is you're going to have air going in and out of the space between the hole in the lid itself and the airlock. So this is why you need a drilled rubber stopper, and you can also see how thick this is, how deep this is. Okay, it's not just a little thin piece. It's a nice, these are made specifically for fermenting, for making wine, making mead, or any other kind of ferments. So that when that airlock goes down inside there, it needs to be very snug up against the airlock here, and very snug down inside, let's sit this in here, down inside the jug here, whether it be a jug like this or the 5-gallon carboy. Obviously the stopper they make for that is a little bit different because it's bigger, so it fits inside. The carboy is going to have a much bigger hole. So if you're trying to make wine or mead and you didn't get the drilled stopper, you need to get that to go with your airlock. Most of the time they sell these things in sets. Sometimes you can buy the airlock separately and the drilled stopper separately, but most of the time you can buy a full set for really inexpensive. In fact, I think in my winemaking video part 1, I had found a set where you can buy the full set, where you get the gallon jug with its own cap plus the airlock and the drilled stopper, and I believe I linked that, and I was kind of surprised that it was actually a pretty good price to have that whole set. So if you're just starting out and you just want to try a little bit at a time, I recommend looking into that set. I'll see if I can find it again and put that particular set down below. But again, you can buy like packages of where you have 3 airlocks and 3 drilled stoppers, and it's important to have both of those. And there are also different types of airlocks. This is the S-shaped one. There's another one that's a little different yet, and this is just the one I've always used. And one more thing I want to throw in too is also, if it's been several days, you don't see any bubbles moving through here. I had that with another airlock, but it was an old airlock, and I got to looking closely at it and found that, you know, because it was an old airlock, I found like right in here where it had cracked the plastic from me moving it around, and it had been well used. It was either here or here, but at any rate, it was on this side of the airlock. It wouldn't be so bad if it was a crack up here, because this is where the gases are escaping, but you don't want any holes at all on this side of your airlock. Otherwise, what's going to happen is not only is the air coming out here anyway, instead of going through the airlock, then that means you're getting oxygen into your wine or your mead, and what's going to happen is either going to mold, if you got fruit in there, it's going to mold the top of it, or it's going to turn that to vinegar rather than wine at the end of the process. So remember, it's that oxygen exposure that turns the wine into vinegar. All right, one more thing I'm going to talk about, which is probably kind of silly. It has nothing to do with homesteading or DIY or anything like that, but just something fun I wanted to share with you. So I don't know if anyone recognizes these little violet candies. Some people might think of these as more an adult candy because of the flavor, but when I was a kid, I loved these things. I used to walk, when I was staying at my grandpa's house out in Cashmere, Washington, there's a real cool museum just right down the road from where he lived. And I used to, when I was staying out there, I would walk down to the museum like every day, and I would walk through the museum every day because back then it was free, and I loved it. I loved checking everything out, even if I'd seen it a zillion times. But they also had these little violet candies in there, and I would get a container of these, and I loved them. They were one of my very favorite treats. And then they also had the rose ones, which were also my favorites. Well, that was back in the 70s, and I hadn't had any since. So I just remembered those the other day, and I went to Amazon and found a 3-pack of the tins, and thought, I'm going to go ahead and get some just as a splurge. And they're not cheap, you know, for a candy, but man, they're so good. I mean, I like them, but I'm funny that way. Because even as a kid, I used to like to eat rose petals right off of my grandma's rose bushes. They're just an added splurge, and I thought it was just kind of fun. Well, I decided, you know what, I'm going to go ahead and get some more and get myself some of the rose ones too. And I found that I could get a little bit better price by buying a bulk one of them. I think it's like 8.5 ounces in one of these little bags. Still not cheap, but it was a better price than buying it in the individual tins. So I got one of the rose and one of the violet. Now, when I was a kid, the violet ones were my favorite, but when I got these rose ones in, I've decided that now the rose flavored ones are my very favorite. So if you're kind of weird and you like different flavors like that, I recommend these. They have several other flavors, ones I've never tried. I've just always liked the floral flavored ones. Again, it's just a little treat, a little splurge I'm doing just for the heck of it, and I decided I would get some in bulk and then just put them up. They should last me quite a while because I only have up to 2, maybe 3 at the very most, usually only 2 per day. And just to get that little flavor punch that I like, and just to feel like I'm having a special treat. So what I did here was I took the rose ones, because these bags, they're not resealable bags. So I just am putting them in a jar, got my nice little lid on here. I have a video coming out shortly that you'll see about these lids and how I make them food safe, and also make them so that they will seal well on your jar if you're concerned about having a good seal. And so it just looks kind of pretty that way. And then what I did was I cut the label off because the candies themselves look the same. So I'm going to do the same thing with the violets. I just left these in here so you can see what it looks like in the package. And then I'm going to cut the label off and then tape it onto the jar I put these ones in, so I'll know the difference. But anyway, I really like both of them, and I'm not recommending you necessarily run out and buy them, especially if you're trying to avoid sugar altogether. But these aren't super sweet. That's the other thing I like about them. They're just not super sugary sweet like some things. And again, I didn't bother looking at the ingredients because it's just one of those guilty pleasures that I'm decided I'm just going to enjoy because it reminded me of my childhood. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed my video today and all the different things I've covered. Don't forget to check out the video links I'll be putting down below so you can learn about more about the black seed and the hair oil and the wine making and so on and so forth. All right, I got more videos to go shoot, so thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.